So can I just get a quick introduction and title of who I'm here with?
Sure. My name is Paul Junge. I spell the last name Junge. I am the Republican candidate for Congress here in Michigan's 8th District. You and your listeners and readers probably know the 8th District is Genesee County, Saginaw County, Bay County, and just about all of Midland County. And if I don't get the chance later, let me say to your readers and listeners, I am asking for your vote. As we record this, we're just 18 days away from Election Day. People are already voting, so please feel free to get out there and vote, and I'm asking for people's support.
Perfect. And why do you feel that young voters, here at Delta or in Michigan should vote for you?
Well, listen, I think all voters need to make sure their voices are heard, make sure they're talking with people who either do represent them or seek to represent them. I've been running for this job for almost 11 months now, and I have been talking with voters in Genesee County, in Saginaw County, in Bay County, and in Midland County. I've been talking to retired people, students, unemployed people who are finding it difficult to make ends meet. They see prices going up, they see affordability across the board, very difficult for them. And so when I'm talking about that issue and so many others, I feel like the message that I'm bringing out there, a common sense solution to doing the things we need to do to tame inflation and to make sure we have an economy that works for working families, that's a message that's resonating, and it gives me confidence that we'll win in this November.
Is there anything, if elected, that you plan on specifically doing for the high cost of living here?
There are at least 2 or 3 things that I know we can do to address inflation. One of them is the price of gasoline and energy carries through all parts of the economy. So I think it's important that we have an all-of-the-above energy policy, that we pursue solar and wind, that we pursue fossil fuels, that we pursue nuclear energy, everything that we can do. And America is an innovative place with a lot of great resources. And so if we unleash the American economy and the American energy sector, we can have more abundant energy. That'll help bring down the costs of energy, and that'll help make things across the board cheaper. One other aspect of the plan and the program is one of the drivers of inflation was government spending that was just out of control. I mean, if you look, I'm running, of course, for Congress in Washington, D.C. In and around Washington, D.C., there are, of the 7 wealthiest counties in this country, 5 of those 7 are in Washington, D.C. That's an indicator that we send tax money to Washington, D.C., and then it just stays there. So we need to do things to reduce that federal government spending, make sure earned benefits come back, make sure we're investing in the way we should invest, but we've got to cut government spending, because out of control government spending has helped to drive inflation. So that's at least 2 of the things we'll do.
Amazing. And how are your views for your policy on illegal immigration here in America?
Well, I worked in the Trump administration. I worked in the Department of Homeland Security working on border and immigration issues. And I think that's an issue of concern to a great many people in this state and throughout the country. I think we need to secure the southern border. I think, we are a country where people want to be helpful to people. We want to be welcoming, and we do welcome immigrants legally in this country every year. But we don't need to be doing that illegally. I've been to the southern border recently, and I'm told by law enforcement there that as much as they hate to admit it, that border is controlled by the criminal cartels south of the border, not by American law enforcement. And so that leads to human trafficking, it leads to sex trafficking, it leads to drugs, it leads to all kinds of problems. So we need to secure that border and allow immigrants in legally, but not illegally.
Kind of backing off of the illegal immigration, what would you say to the voters who are afraid of their voter security in this election due to illegal immigration and being allowed to vote?
Well, certainly, I think that's one distinction between the Democrats and myself as a Republican candidate. Just recently in Washington, D.C., House Republicans had to pass a continuing resolution to fund the government. And they tried to put one measure on that, and that was to reaffirm that only U.S. citizens could vote in elections. And the Democrats, 100%, voted against that extra provision, which seemed to be a suggestion that they're willing to turn the other way and allow illegal aliens, non-U.S. citizens, to vote in an election. And I think, that dilutes the value of votes for citizens, for people who it's their country and they should have a say, and not let people who are not permitted to vote influence our elections. So that's important.
And my last question here for you is what is your stance on abortion rights, and specifically, how do you think that'll affect here in Michigan?
Well, listen, I am pro-life, and when we had an abortion measure on the ballot last election cycle, I said to the voters, I understand that the voters of Michigan are going to decide this issue, and however they decide it, that's where we will leave that issue, and that is, I stand by that position. My opponent has suggested that I would want to impose a national ban, and that's simply not true. I've said repeatedly that I will not, if elected, seek to overturn or in any way disrupt what the voters of the state of Michigan have said on that issue. And we'll see politically where we go with that. I mean, certainly the Democrats have tried to make a big deal out of that issue, and it was important. Certainly, it remains an important issue, but it was, in my view, settled largely last election cycle, and hopefully it won't be top of mind for all voters. And because I do think, as I'm campaigning, cost of living, an insecure southern border, and any number of different issues will also be important to voters.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else? I'm just going to open it up to you. Is there anything else you'd like to say regarding this year's election?
You are doing well in your journalism studies. I feel like you covered the gambit, and I appreciate the time to talk to you.
I appreciate your time.
Yep.